Hello everyone, welcome back, hope you're all doing well. In today's video we have another PlayStation 5 which has a blue light issue. So this PlayStation 5, when we give it some power, what happens is we get a blue light and then powers off, right? So here the DVD or optical drive spin up, here the fan spin up, and then it literally just powers off again. This PlayStation 5 we purchased from one of our customers at consoletherapy.co.uk. So if you do have a faulty PlayStation 5 or Xbox that you would like to sell, please visit consoletherapy.co.uk and we will get an instant offer price to you. Just literally enter in a few details on the website. It will show you a offer price that we'll offer for your faulty console, and we'll also arrange free collection from your home address as well, and then you get paid immediately as soon as it arrives to us. Much better than selling on eBay with people messing you around and then returning items that they cannot fix, or just not paying after they've won the auction, which is quite kind of painful. Anyhow, let's get this one opened up and then we can see what's going on. Good news, hasn't been opened. We do actually pay a little bit more money for consoles which have not been opened as well. Right, so with the casing off, let's do our usual. We will come in with our multimeter. Let's just bring that up on the screen and then just check for some voltages and see where we are. Right, so black probe on ground anywhere, and then we'll just check up here for 5 volts. Yep, we've got 5 volts up there. Yeah, this transistor, the top leg of the third transistor down should be 3.3. Yep, good. Over here we should have 5 volts either side of F7002, which we do. Good, so we've got some main voltage. We've got 3.3, we've got 5, and we've obviously got the 12 volts as well, obviously. So we need to do a little bit more digging, right, to find out what exactly is going on. Let's take the motherboard out and quickly flip it around. So one thing we can check is if we get the correct boot sequence when we power on the motherboard. So let's hook up our bench power supply, making sure we've got the polarity around the right way, like so. Then I'm going to apply some voltage to the motherboard, and what we should see, it should jump up to 300 milliamps, which it does, and then drop back down again. Right, so good. So we're getting the boot sequence. So essentially I've got my power supply over here, and you can see the amp meter going up to 300 millivolts and back down again. So that means the boot sequence is working okay. That means the BIOS is okay, and more than likely this actual south bridge is okay as well. So let's probe around the board and see if we have any shorts anywhere around the board. So we're going to put our meter into continuity mode, and again black probe on ground, and then we're just going to have a look around some of these capacitors. This one down here normally is one that shorts quite often, right? When you get a blue light of death, this power supply here should beep on one side, it shouldn't beep on the other side, right? So we're not getting a beep there, so we know that's good, and these ones are going to be good as well, right? So that is all good as well. It's only beeping on one side, and literally we're just going to go around and check a few of the capacitors around the board. This is the power supply for RAM, so we're not getting any beeps there either. These are the power supplies for the actual core, the actual APU. These will beep, right, because they are actually very low resistance, right? So don't worry about if you get beeps along here. Up here's the 5 volts. You shouldn't get a beep there, which we don't. We already know we've got 5 volts. So generally, we kind of look all right. We can quickly buzz around the fuses, right? But I don't think that's going to be anything which is impacting the blue lights, right? So all those fuses are good. Check the other fuses here. That's good. We know this fuse down here is going to be good, but we can check it anyhow. Yeah. So generally, we don't. Well, it doesn't look like on the initial testing we've got any shorts. And we have got our power rails now, and what that normally points to, it can sometimes be a south bridge, but I'm relatively, because we get that boot sequence, the south bridge is all right. It can point to an issue with some of the RAM as well. So one way to test that is, let's bring back in our chassis. And I appreciate not everyone will be able to do this, right? But what we're going to do is just come in with our thermal camera and see if we get any, see if all the RAM heats up like it should do, right? So let's bring on our thermal cam, right? And we can literally just put it above the board here, right? And just position ourselves roughly so we can see it. Let's try and get the focus just a little bit better on that. All right, now around here is the RAM, right? It doesn't, you can't see it very well, but you will when I push the power button, right? So I'm going to power on the PS5 now, and you'll see that RAM warm up, right? So all of these look good, right? Let's just have a look at that again quickly. That's the core warming up, but if you look at this module here, it's a telltale sign, right? Keep your eyes where my finger is. All the others warm up, but this one powers off quicker, right? So they start to warm up, and then as soon as this one powers up, it shuts the console down again straight after the blue lights, right? Just see that again. Now this is me pretty much guessing at this point, but I could be completely wrong, right? See that one, it kind of warms up and then shuts down again, right? So let's just move you away and come back to the overhead, right? So it's this RAM module down here, right? Now, one way to confirm that is obviously with UART, right? So you would have seen a previous video on how to use UART. So I'm going to hook up UART and see if it is actually that RAM chip and if my bet pays off, right? That's UART hooked up and connected to the USB. Let's jump across to the desktop. And here on the desktop, let's fire up our console service tool. Pick our USB port. That's our USB port. Make sure we've got some power on the console. Give it a few seconds and then hit run. And it reads loads of error codes, and the main one is 808.0.1120, which is RAM bank 6. So let's just double check that code by going across to consoletherapy.co.uk, clicking on our PS5 UART database. Let's just paste that error code in. So 808.0.1120, search for the error code, yeah, and confirmed, right? So GDDR bank 6 and replace the RAM modules is the recommended resolution, as it told us here as well. I do like to just double check on my own database on consoletherapy.co.uk. The reason why is I have compiled quite a lot of the error code databases from various different sources. So sometimes on some of these tools you might see an unknown error, right, it's always worth going to consoletherapy.co.uk, as I say, clicking on the PS5 UART database link and then just pasting in your error code there, because you might actually get to see an error code, because I've just compiled them from different sources on the internet. Right, so back to our overhead camera, and we said bank number 6, didn't we? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the bad boy that didn't light up, or did light up but then flashed and then everything else turned off. So we have a faulty RAM module that needs replacing. Now this is, what RAM is this? That's the Micron RAM, right? So we'll have to get a spare one off another PlayStation. For that, you should always match the brand of the RAM, by the way. Don't just put in like a Samsung module. Make sure you replace them. Right, so let's remove this one. Now the easiest way to do that, just turn the power off, disconnect it, is with obviously a heat gun. We need to put a little bit of flux around there just to help it, like so. And then with your heat gun with no nozzle on it at all, you want to heat the bottom of the board first of all, right, like so. So my heat gun's underneath and I'm just heating up the module from underneath until you see that flux start to melt. Right, I'm moving the heat gun kind of around. I know it's hard to see, but I'm moving the heat gun around. Then as that flux starts to melt and starts to smoke like that, you can come back on over the top and come in and heat it from the top. Eventually you'll see it move when you nudge it. And at that point you know it's good to then just pick up. Like so. And then all we want to do is come in with a little bit of flux and then come in with some leaded solder and just add some leaded solder to the pads, right, because this will help you to remove the unleaded solder which is on the board. Right. Come in with your solder wick and then just wick away all of the pads to remove the factory unleaded solder. So I'm going to come in with just a slither of flux onto the module, spread it around. Now the key for all of this is not using too much flux, right? So you literally just want to use a little bit of flux. When I'm doing this, I use this flux, this Sturi, and it is the VS UHF-TF. I just find that's a little bit better for reballing than any other fluxes I've used. Let's pop on our template like so, pop it onto our magnet so it's all held down nicely. Then come along with our solder balls. You can use paste, by the way, on these mechanic stencils, you can actually use paste, right? I prefer to use solder balls, and the reason that is the solder balls give it just a little bit more of a lift away from the motherboard when you go to resolder it. So I think overall it just gives it a little bit more security on the motherboard. Now, using paste is absolutely perfect fine, nothing wrong with using paste at all, so you can do that, of course you can, but it's just, you know, it's a personal preference really. I just prefer using the balls on this one. Let's get rid of all of the old or unused solder balls like so. We're just going to check, there is a couple missing, so we'll just check under the microscope. Alright, all good. So now if you're doing it this way, remove the stencil from the magnet first of all. Okay, just slide the magnet out of the way and then lift off your stencil just like that. And then with your heat gun coming at a very low airflow, right? So I'm literally down to about 25% airflow on mine. Make sure this time you have got a nozzle on your heat gun. I use a slightly fatter nozzle like that. Pop that onto my heat gun and then just come above and then just slowly heat everything up. And then eventually you'll see all of the solder balls jump into line. I do like to then just come in just with a slither of flux across each side of the IC and then just come in. This time you can have your fan speed a little bit higher. I've now got mine at 40%. And then just give it another quick warm up, and that flux just helps it just settle in. There we go. And let that cool down. Now we've got our replacement ready to go back on the motherboard. Right, so back over on the motherboard, let's pop on a little bit of flux. Again, don't use loads, just use a slither. Right, get that on there. I like to pat it down like this because then it kind of gets into all the micro nooks and crannies. Put on our RAM module. On the RAM module itself, there's one corner will have a little dot. I think you can just make that out there. And then on the actual motherboard, there'll be a little arrow. There's a little arrow down here, so we know our module goes around this way, like so. Now, it's easy to do this under a microscope, but you can see in each corner there's a little copper dot, right? Just make sure it's lined up to that as best as possible, right? Surface tension will do most of the work for us, but you have got to get it roughly in line. So just line that up. And then as we did before with no nozzle, this time on our heat gun, we're going to come under the motherboard. Right, so my heat gun is going underneath the motherboard. Let me just try and get the angles better for you, if I can. So again, underneath the motherboard, warming up that warming up the motherboard underneath the RAM module. And this is really key, right, because it warms the motherboard up all the way through, so it just makes the RAM module sit a lot easier. Alright, just a couple of minutes. Then we're going to gently put the motherboard back down again and then heat from the top. Just as we did when we were removing the module. Right, so I'm not touching it at this point or doing anything at this point, I'm just literally heating it. But then what I am going to do is come along very gently with just a little bit of flux. Make sure you don't touch the IC when you do this. And just run it down either side. Like so. And then bring in the heat again. And what we want to do is give it the nudge test. And you'll see it very gently just move and jump back into place again. Then come off the heat and then let the whole thing cool down. And then underneath the microscope, let's just have a quick check. Right, so as you can see, this is an original factory one. This is our replacement that we've just put on. And do you see what I mean by those balls? They just seem a little bit more rounder, right? More like factory than when I've used paste before. Paste flattens the IC to the motherboard a bit more. So I just prefer this way. It's okay. Nothing wrong at all in using solder paste whatsoever if it works for you. Right, so let's get the entire area cleaned up and then we can give everything a test. Right, so there we go, everything put back together. Let's give it some power and an HDMI cable. Now power is on. Do we get a blue light? Yes, we do, and it's staying on. Brilliant. Do we get video output? Yes, we do. There you go. Perfect. Everything working again. We'll continue to test this, obviously. But there you go. Quick video to show you how to replace the memory modules on a PlayStation 5. If you do have a faulty PlayStation 5 or a faulty Xbox Series model console that you would like to sell, please visit consoletherapy.co.uk and we'll give you an instant quote on how much we would give for you, and we also arrange a collection from any UK address. So you don't even have to go to the post office. You literally just get your quote online, fill in some details, and we will take care of everything else, and you'll get the payment the day it arrives to us. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, really do appreciate it, and please consider subscribing. So anyhow, until next time, see you all again next week. Bye bye.